So like your video, stood up, Brian.
All right, welcome everybody. My name is Brian. I am joined here by Brian, whichever direction he happens to be on your screen. I don't know. This is Civil Chat. So welcome everybody. If this is your first time to Civil Chat, welcome. I'm glad you were able to join us. The way this works is you ask questions and I do my best to answer them. Doesn't really matter what the question is. We try to keep it towards the civil engineering software that Autodesk has, because that's what I know. You can ask things about Bentley or any of those other programs if you want to, but I really don't know them. But you're more than welcome to ask them. Maybe somebody else would know the answer to it, and we can bring them in and unmute them, and they can answer it for you. It's pretty much a free flow type of a thing that we've got going on here. But this is driven by all of you. So if you don't ask questions, we're just going to sit around and bullshit. All right. It's just what we do. But I'd much rather answer your questions. So make sure you ask questions. Now, if you're going to ask questions, please put them in the Q&A section of the webinar. It makes it a lot easier for us to manage them and just control everything. And that way we don't accidentally miss it as the chat goes flying by. Please feel free to use the chat, use it to heckle, to comment on things, whatever you want.
When he's wrong, that's
yeah, correct me. Absolutely. You can change who it is you're messaging. So if you just want to message Brian and I, you can do the hosts and panelists, or you can change it to message to everybody. And currently there are no, somebody just came up with a new question. That's old. Okay, anyways. So yeah, please post in your questions and we will get to them. What I usually like to do is I usually like to start off with a little something. A lot of times it's something I'm working on or something I've seen that I really like. And so this since our last session, I got to go to the Design Built Week conference out in Anaheim. And while it was basically it used to be called a RTC, Revit Technology Conference. Right. And so it's really focused more along the Revit side of things. And so a lot of times it'd be like, ooh, I'm going to go take this class. That was useless. But I did find one class that I got some really good information on. And it was all about using Dynamo with Civil 3D. And I want to show you what it is that I've developed since then. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so I'll go ahead and share that screen there. Hey, nobody even had to tell me to share my screen. Nice. Okay, so I'm just going to open up a file here. Apparently, I already have it open. Let me go ahead and close out of 2022. I'm going to be using 2023 for this. It works both in both programs, but since I've got 2023 up here, I'm going to go ahead and start using this. And in here, I've got this sheet set. All right. And I need to go through and I need to change the properties of these sheets. Let's say the person that was designing it is no longer with the company. They've moved on to do something else. And now somebody else needs to come in and design it. And so what we have to do is we have to right click on each sheet, go into its properties, find the design by. Now, this is a custom sheet property and change the initials, right? So let's say that BH guy is no longer here and is no longer designing it. Instead, that BM guy is going to be doing it. And so I have to go through each one of these sheets and change this custom property. And maybe it's only some of the sheets. Some of the sheets are, some of the sheets aren't. And so it's just time consuming, tedious, and difficult to do. So what I've done is I've created a Dynamo script. So I'm going to come over here to my Dynamo player. There we go. And I've got two scripts here. One will export the sheet properties. The other will import the sheet properties. All right. So I'm going to do the export first. So I'm going to go ahead and click the little icon there to edit my inputs. Eventually. I was just taking, there we go. All right. So I'm going to browse to my sheet set. And this is just one I've been testing around with. So I called it Dynamo test because I'm not quite ready to do this on an actual project yet. I'm getting close, but not quite yet. And then what Excel file do you want to take this to? So I'm going to use this export.xlsx. All right, I'll go ahead and run this. And what it's going to do is it's going to create that Excel file, and it's going to take and list all of the sheets with all of their properties. All right, and here they are. And now all I have to do is come in here and edit them in Excel. All right, so here's that design by. So Brian BH is no longer doing it. It's now going to be designed by BM. And maybe I want to change the numbers. Now, one thing I have found is there's no way for me to control the order of the sheets here. So it's what it does is it takes all of your subsets and exports them first. And then any sheets that aren't in a subset, it exports them later. I don't know how to figure out where the subsets are in the list versus the sheets. That's the way it is. And the other thing, the limitation I have is if you have a subset inside of a subset, then these sheets do not get exported. Then as far as I know, the way that those Dynamo scripts are set up now, that you can't do that. But anyways, so I can now come in here and change all these. So let's see. So there's, there's C1001. You can see that's up at the top over here. It's just the way it is. So let's say, hey, I want these to be, I don't know, C1. Well, let's do 401. C4, oops, I can't type today, 402. And we'll go ahead and copy that on down to there. And then this one will be C400. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up.
Okay, I'm gonna throw out an Excel tip there because you just did something that really irritates me. You did two rows and then copied 2 rows.
Mm-hmm.
If you do 1 row and drag it down, if it doesn't give you the increment numbers, you can hold control.
Oh, that's right, I forgot about that. And if it is giving you the increments, you can hold control and not do it. Yeah. I forgot about that. Thank you.
No, I see people.
I just realized. I just recently. Let's have a DM approve this sheet. I just recently learned, and this is like in the last couple of weeks learned that if you double click the little square, it'll fill everything below it.
Yes, and there's also a way to. There's a shortcut where you can like double clicking the square. It's like, I forget what it is, control something, and it'll fill it down automatically.
Yeah. So Desiree has now approved it. Brian Mackey has now designed it, and we've renumbered the sheets. So I'll go ahead and save this.
And everybody's running afraid because a structural engineer and a Reddit geek didn't approve this.
Right. And so now that I've edited the sheet set, and I've had some issues with it not saving. So I'm going to double check, make sure that it did indeed save my changes. I'm just going to reopen that. Yeah, it saved it. Okay, cool. So now that it's saved, I've edited that. I can now go into my Dynamo player and import the sheet. So again, I hit that little button there to edit the input values. I'll grab that sheet set, grab that same Excel file, at export, and then run it. And you can see it renumbers all my sheets eventually. Why did that work? Should have worked. Oh, there they go. So there's C400s, 401, 402. And if I go into any of the properties for any of these sheets, you can see Desiree has now approved them, and they've been designed by Brian.
I heard he's a really crappy draft person.
Oh, what's that?
I heard that BM is a really crappy draft person.
Right? Yeah, I've heard the same thing, especially in CAD.
Yes.
So that's what I've been working on over the last few weeks, and I finally got it up and running, and I'm pretty excited about it. So just so you guys can see the scripts that I've run, and if this is something you're interested in doing yourself, when you get into Dynamo, the first thing you have to do is you have to come up here to your packages, search for a package, and then just search for sheet set, because you have to install the package into Dynamo first.
How come Autodesk is so hell-bent on using the term package?
I don't know.
Just saying.
All right, so you need to install this AMR sheet set manager, and I don't know if the Civil one is required or not, but there's a Civil 3D toolkit. Install that one as well. I'll one word on that one. I don't know if that's required to work with the sheet set stuff or not. I've installed it. I've never tested this without it, so you should install it too. All right. And then if I go take a look at these, so here's the import nodes. So basically, and here are the user inputs. Here's pulling the Excel stuff, and here are just the sheet properties, and then setting the values on it. Here's the list of all the sheets, and then here's the custom sheets. And so not a whole lot of nodes here. The majority of the stuff is because each one of these nodes here is an individual property for the sheet. I didn't know how to, I probably could have combined those in sheet, but you can see these are individual nodes in Dynamo that one of them will set the title for the sheet, and one will set the number for the sheet, set the description. So I had to go through each one of those individually, but then here are the custom properties.
Yeah, and in Dynamo, you can make all those a custom node with inputs for each one, so it groups it all into one. I personally like seeing it like this, so everybody can come in and see what it's doing. But if you did a custom node, then they would all be like, oh, we're going to group all together. And so you just have all those inputs going into one node, and it's just a custom node. Doesn't have to have Python scripting or anything like that in it. It can literally just be a whole bunch of nodes in one custom node.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah, I probably could have arranged these a little bit better. Maybe, this and one thing I learned is, if you got like junk within a group like this, you can just right click within the group and clean up the node layout, and it lays it out for you, which is really handy. But that's my import, and then the export. It's quite a bit simpler, and I didn't group things, but basically you just grab the sheet set in the Excel file, and it goes through, and here's all the individual properties, right? So the description, this number, the title, and then where's my custom properties? I got my custom properties up here, and then here's my custom properties. And then it combines them all together into an Excel file, and that's all there is to it.
So Brian, I'll ask the question, how are you planning on deploying all this to everybody in your company? Because as you're installing packages, you've got to make sure everybody has that package installed for this to work.
Right, and that's something I haven't figured out yet.
Okay.
So I was hoping maybe somebody would have some insight on how to distribute those packages out to everyone. Because right now, I just created a Word document, or a document that has the instructions for installing the package on your machine if you're going to use this. And then I also did a video. I was working on a video about it this morning as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you can, and Justin just jumped in here too, but you can save all those packages you use on the network, and then you can point the packages to go to your network.
How do I do that?
I've got to remember, because it's been a couple of years since I did this. I think it's under the packages drop down. And then there is a, no. I don't remember. There's a way to actually do that. So when you do this, everybody just keeps pointing there. And then when they don't have the package, now I haven't done this for a couple of years. I do know they've been making bigger advantages. Like I know Dynamo has been changing the fact, like if you open up and says, hey, you need this package, and occasionally it's asked me, hey, would you like to go install that package? It's like, cool, but it doesn't always, so I'm not sure that.
Right.
Yeah, so just, it's under preferences.
Under preferences.
We do have a network location, Brian, for Dynamo stuff, but it's inside the Revit folder. And I wonder if it's worth keeping them separate or not. I don't know if there's a best practice on
Package manager.
Node and package paths. Yep.
Okay. So I guess the next question is how do I set this for everybody?
I believe that's an INI setting or something. I forget.
Okay. So there should be a way for me to go through and.
Yeah. Well, the way you guys run a script when everybody starts up Civil 3D, I think it'll be pretty easy to say, hey, it's also going to do this to their Dynamo.
Okay. Yeah, because that's what I just did. I'm sure there was a way to do it. The other thing is
Well, asked that question 4 years ago, 3 years ago, to be like, no, sorry. Yeah, it's a registry file. Thank you, Justin.
I can also go into under the Dynamo player. I need to set this path as well. So
yes.
Right now it's going to the location where I've got all my Dynamo scripts. And so I'll need to figure out a way to set this folder for the Dynamo player. I don't know if that's something I can do within CAD or if that's something that needs to be done external. I would imagine I can't do it in CAD. But that's something else I, as the CAD manager, need to figure out. Because like I said, right now I've just got instructions for, oh, you want to use this? Here's some setup you have to do beforehand, and then you're off and running.
Yeah, and then you'll also save all of those packages on the network as well.
Yeah.
But with the way you guys do it, I mean, a lot of your Dynamo stuff is not that large of files. And until you really start getting into it, the way you guys overwrite all of your user settings for all your Civil 3D tools and stuff, you could probably just say, hey, copy these, you know, as you're getting in the newbies of this, that way people could still use it offline if they wanted to.
Right, right. That's what I would plan on doing. So that preferences under the Dynamo would go to
Their C drive, but
so that would go to, you know, the C drive. So go to, you know, C drive, cat support, common, Dynamo packages or something like that.
Yeah, you can see right there, they have the new buttons too for the disable loading built-in packages, and disable load custom. I haven't seen that successful every single time, but theoretically, if somebody opens it and says, oh, you should have to go download the Civil 3D package. And I don't know if it's a lot of the way people create custom packages or not, you know, on Autodesk ones, but I have had times where it's like, cool, I'm missing a package. Why aren't you loading it? You loaded the other one for me, and I don't understand. Sometimes it does it and sometimes it doesn't.
So this is good. Thank you for pointing that out. Oh, and by the way, it was Justin Earhart that did the class, and he's in this meeting right now. So thank you, Justin. It was awesome. It's great inspiration. I hope your student has shown you that he is capable of learning something.
Well, and he did say it was the best Dynamo Civil 3D session you said at Built. He just
definitely the best. It was by far the best.
It was the only one.
Yeah, it was the only one, but it was definitely, even if there were other ones, I'm sure it would have been the best. Yeah, and as far as the .reg file, I'm sure I can have IT push that out to everybody that has CAD on their machine. So that's not something I should have to worry about too much.
Cool. So since we just got through Brian's education from Justin, should we just jump into some questions that are not necessarily new, but are just some questions that are newly posted?
Yeah.
So Warren asked, what is the best new feature in Civil 3D 2022?
2022? Why don't you ask what's the best new feature in release 14?
I think we should go to DOS-based LAN desktop.
Right? Yeah. Best new feature in Civil 3D 2022. I don't even remember what's new in 2022. Let's go find out. I don't recall what the new features of 2022 are. So here's 2023. Let's go to new features in here somewhere. Up there, it's right there. Big button. This is right there. But we should be able to go to new features in Civil 3D 2022. Pressure network changes are pretty good. The corridor targets are nice. If you're doing corridors, I don't know if you guys use corridors much there where you're at, Warren. I'm not going to mention any names. Warren works for a company that I'm not going to name names on, but it does deal with water in the Denver area.
I'm just going to say, you know, since they're finally installing 2022, it must be a government agency because just installing 2022 a year and a half later.
Dynamo's new in 2020. I don't know if it was new in 2022. We skipped 2021. Pressure network workflows are awesome. One of the things that I really like, so it's got the path-based workflows for pressure networks. One of the things I really like, and I've complained about this for a long time. So let me just go create a pressure network here real quick. All right, you got this compass, which is really nice if you want to go exactly 45 degrees or exactly 22.5 degrees or exactly 11.25 degrees, right? But now you can turn off the snapping. So I turn off the snapping and I can go to any angle I want in between it, and it'll put in the fitting that's the closest to that angle. All right, so it puts in those angles that fit it, even though they're not exact. And then it is path-based. And as I change this, you can see that the fittings change with it. So it always puts in the fitting that'll get you closest to whatever angle you're at. So those are some, if you're going to be using pressure networks in 2022, make sure you install the latest and greatest update. They've made some changes and you really want to make sure you've got that for 2022. Yeah. So And those would be my big ones. The corridor targeting is really nice. So let me go ahead and open up a drawing that has a corridor in it. Let's see, we'll go to the C drive. Autodesk. AutoCAD 2023, Civil 3D, help, Civil tutorials, drawings, and we'll go to that quantities drawing. Doesn't even have a daylight subassembly on it. Let me bring up my nope, wrong one. There we go. Tool palettes. Come on, tool palettes. There we go. Daylight. I'll just use the daylight standard. Just so we can have some targets in here. And then I'll rebuild this corridor. Okay, so I just added some daylight subassemblies to this, and I need to edit the targets on it. So I select the corridor. This is the way I like to do it. Select the corridor. I love using the ribbon for the corridor. If you're not using the ribbon for the corridor, try it out. You might really, there's a lot. It's like modifying the regions, the sections, the corridor itself. It's like, hey, I need to swap out the assembly that this particular region is going. You can expand out, modify region, go into the region property, select a point within the region, and then simply change the assembly. I think it's really great. But anyways, so in this case, I'm editing targets. So I'm going to come up here, choose edit targets. It's going to ask me for the region. So I just pick in the region that I want to edit the target for. I hit enter, and you can see we've got this new target mapping dialog box. You'll see two tabs up here. People will miss this. Offset and elevation, and then we have over here we have a surface. So hey, here's my target surface, right? And then you can choose the surface you want to target over here on the right hand side. So this is going to target the proposed ground, and this one is going to target the proposed ground as well. If I come over here to offset and elevation, if I choose, let's say, a width target, I can come down here and I can choose my alignments, right? Over here on the right, I can choose polylines or feature lines or survey figures. And if you'll notice, it's not listing polylines, feature lines, or survey. What is it listing instead? It's listing layers. And so I can say, hey, I want to grab everything that's on that layer and make it a target, right? Or if you just want to select something individual, you can come in here, select that button, and select the individual one. So I like the way that they've made the changes to the target mapping. I think this is a good improvement as well. So those were some of my top features for 2022. Anybody else have anything that they really like? Yeah, Tom says the contextual ribbon tabs in general are very useful. I totally agree with that. The thing I love about them is you select a Civil 3D object and you get the tools that are specific towards that object. So when I select an alignment, I get alignment tools. If I select a pipe network part, I get pipe network tools. It's just really good. If I grab a surface, I get surface tools. The right click works. A lot of the right click stuff, or a lot of the stuff that's up on the ribbon in the contextual ribbon tabs will be available on the right click, but not everything. You know, like for example, this launch pad. So the launch pad isn't necessarily surface tools. They're just other tools that work with surfaces, like creating a profile. That's not a surface tool, but hey, there it is. New trim and extend. Is that? Yeah, that's just an AutoCAD function though. Right. So if I have, you know, some things over here like this, if I do trim, what you'll notice is I can now pick points and I'll draw lines. Right. So I can select things that way. So it's kind of like a fence, but it defaults to it. By default, it's now using everything as the cutting edge. So, which is good in some cases, bad in other cases. So if I had all of this, say, for example, in here, and I come in here and I choose trim, you can see it's going to try to trim each one of those individual pieces there. So that's, if you're used to it the old way, when you go to trim, you have to make sure that you choose your cutting edge. And then I can choose my cutting edge, and then I can trim off that and that piece there. The thing I really like. All right, let's say I have something like this, and I want to trim everything to the northwest of this line. All right, I come in here and I choose trim, and I choose that, and it's like, oh, I forgot this little piece here. Well, if you trim a piece that isn't being, so before you'd have to actually end the trim command, come in and erase this, but now you can just trim it off and it goes away. So that's kind of nice as well. So if you just have a segment and you trim it, it just deletes it, which I gotta say, that's one of those, well, it's about damn time functions. Anybody else have anything else that they really like in 2022? All right, well, I think that pretty much beats that one. What else we got, Brian?
So the next one we have comes from Sean. And he's like, can you please go over some more examples for labeling parcels in Civil 3D? You did cover an example of labeling blocks using expressions, but please cover more samples for labeling by using expressions.
Are there examples of labeling parcels with expressions? So parcels most of the time are used for land ownership, right? It's a piece of land and this person owns this piece of land. But not always. Parcels can be used for anything that says, hey, this piece of land is unique and separate from that piece of land. And there's no overlap between them and there's no gap between them. All right. There's no overlap. There's no gap. They share a common line. So an example of this would be a watershed boundary. Right. And so I'm just going to, right. So there's your typical watershed boundary. Right. And so there's my watershed boundary. And this one is actually subdivided. Maybe there's another watershed boundary in here. So I can use parcels for this. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. So I'll choose home, parcel, create parcels from objects. Now, I don't know if everybody's heard my diatribe on this yet. This is misnamed. Right, this should not say create parcel from objects. This should say create parcel segments from objects. You cannot create parcels in Civil 3D. You only can create parcel segments. If anybody wants me to go over why I refer to it that way, let me know in a question and I can go over it. If not, we'll just skip it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create parcel segments from these. Never use site one. That is just evil. So this will be, we'll call this the existing drainage area. And I'll just use these all set to the default. So I've got two drainage areas. I've got one there and I've got one there. Okay, so what can we do with expressions here? So I can create user-defined properties for parcels. All right, so I'll come over here to my tool space. I think it's under prospect. No, it's under settings. Parcel, user-defined property classifications. We'll create a new one called drainage. And oh, I didn't misspell it. Nice. And then under the drainage classification, I'll create some new ones. So this might be time of concentration. All right, and this is going to be a double. So doubles are just numbers. Those are all the real numbers, real rational numbers. Yeah. All right, so it's just a double. And then I'll create a new one. And we'll call this one the intensity. And then maybe we'll create a new one called the runoff coefficient. All right. And I should have made those doubles as well. Can I edit those? I can't edit those. That's silly. I have to delete it? No, I should be able to edit those, right? Okay, I have to delete those. This is what I get for being in a hurry. All right, so this will be runoff coefficient. I hit enter. Damn it. One more time. Runoff coefficient. At least I've gotten practice at typing coefficient. All right, that will be a double. And then this one will be intensity, and this will also be a double. All right, so now I can go into these drainage areas, go into their properties. And if I come over here to user-defined properties, you can see I've got my time of concentration, my runoff coefficient, and my intensity. So let's say, hey, this one has a runoff coefficient of 90 because there's lots of pavement on it. And we'll say this has an intensity of, I don't know, 1.3. Time of concentration really doesn't matter in this way. You use time of concentration to calculate your intensity based off of your curves, and I'm just not going there. I probably shouldn't even done time of concentration here. But anyways, you can put that into label. And then I'll do the same thing here. This runoff coefficient, maybe it's a little bit more rural. So maybe we'll make this a 0.75. Intensity would be a 1.3. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. And so now within your expressions, so this will be an area label style. So label area, all right, this will be peak runoff. So on my expression, I can just now take those user-defined properties of runoff coefficient, right? So Q equals CIA, right? So C is the runoff coefficient. I is your intensity. So we'll multiply that by the intensity. And then we'll multiply that by the area. And the area is just a property of the parcel. So parcel area. All right, we'll do that as a double. And now in my parcel, I think this is using the parcel name. Yep, so we'll use that. I'll just edit that style. And now I can place within my label the expression for peak runoff. All right, so 84,240 cubic feet per second. That's nothing, right? That's probably should be 842 because I did the C as 90 instead of 0.9. Anyways, if I adjust the area, it should have changed. How come that didn't change? What did I do wrong? I did drawing scale conversion. Why did I do? How come nobody called me on that one? Parcel area. There we go. There we go. These must be really big parcels. But as you can see, as I change the area, the numbers change. So that's another example of where you might be able to use expressions. So again, expressions is just math. Right? I'm going to do some math to this number, and then I'm going to put it into the thing. Another place where you can do this is if you want to see some values and not other values, right? So let's say if the area is over a certain value, I want it to display in acres, but if it's under a certain value, I want it to display in square feet. All right, so let's see. Let me edit this here real quick because I don't know what the area of this is. So I'll get rid of that peak runoff, and we'll just put in the parcel area, and we'll do it in acres. Just because I have no idea how big these are. So they're fairly good size. So if it's, we'll say if it's less than 4 acres, I want to see it displayed as square feet. If it's more than 4 acres, I want to see it displayed as acres. So I'm going to create an expression here. I'm going to say less than 4 acres. Less than 4 acres. And my expression will be if the parcel area is less than 4 acres. Let's see, that would be 4 times 43,560 because there's 43,560 square feet in an acre. I believe I've got that correct. Then I want to return a text height. And I'm going to use that text height to control which ones I see. So if it's less than that, then that is the correct one. So I want this to display as 1/10 of an inch. So, or whatever size you use your text. So gee, I would use 0.12. I'm just going to use 0.1 here. So I'm going to refer as 0.1. Now this is in drawing units. So that's actually 0.1 feet. So I need to divide it by 12 to get to inches. Otherwise, I want to return a text height of 0. I don't want to see it. And then I'll do the same thing for greater than 4 acres. Can I copy this? I don't think I can. I didn't think I could. All right, create a new one. This one will be greater than 4 acres. Same concept. The expression will be the if the parcel area is greater than 4 times 43,560, then 0.1 divided by 12, otherwise 0. All right. So hopefully this is making sense. I've got two expressions. One tests if it's greater than 4 acres. One tests if it's less than 4 acres. And now I'll go edit the area label style. And I have to do this with separate components. So let me get rid of the parcel area out of this component because I need a new component. All right, so this new component is just going to be a text component. And we'll call this one, I don't know, I should have renamed it. We'll rename this to less than 4 acres. All right, so the label text will be parcel area. And it's going to be in square feet. And the height of the text will be less than 4 acres. All right, and we will attach this to the parcel number and we'll put it just below it. So that'll be bottom left and this will be top left. All right. And then I'll create another one, another text component, and this will be greater than 4 acres. Same concept. All right, so I'm going to put in the greater than 4 acres. No, sorry. This is a parcel area. Parcel area, but this time it will be in acres. And the text height will be greater than 4 acres. And it's going to attach to the same location. All right, so it's going to attach to the parcel number. It'll attach to the bottom left. And the top left of it will attach to it. All right, and there you go. And I should have done this a little bit better. Let me edit this real quick. So we'll do less than 4 acres. This should be square feet. And the greater than 4 acres, I'll just put a suffix on there of AC. All right, so you can see this one is that many square feet. And this one is that many acres. All right, and if I edit this, so it becomes greater than 4 acres, it now shows it as acres. If I edit it so it becomes less than 4 acres, it now shows it in square feet. So that's another example of where you can use expressions in labels for parcels. So hopefully that helped you out, Sean.
Tom said you should have copied the less than 4 acres and modified the component units.
Could have done that.
But he didn't do that, Tom, because people were complaining he goes too fast. So if he does it twice, it's not too fast because you get to see it twice.
Yeah, so what did he say we're referring to? I just could have come in here and copied the component and then switched things up. I absolutely could have done that, but I didn't. Yes, I went really fast. This is being recorded. I will put it up on YouTube at sometime this week, and you can come back and watch it.
Well, I was just laughing. The comment came up, you went really fast, but after you said, why didn't anybody call me on that? But you were already like, 40,000 steps past that by the time that I couldn't really, say anything about it. And Sean said that was wonderful. It answered his questions.
Awesome.
And Sean has another question.
Okay.
That comes up. Says, do you ever use Layer State Manager? If so, when? And could you show an example?
Do we ever use Layer States Manager? Sometimes. So if I go into my layers, all right, so to get to your Layer States Manager, it's one of these buttons up here. I think it's this one. No, that's those are the filters. This one. Layer States Manager. Yeah, so here's your Layer States Manager. And if you're not familiar with Layer States Manager is, you can save a state of layers. So you can have multiple layer states set up in a drawing, and you can switch back and forth between them really quickly. I have used layer states for a drawing in the past. This was back when I was doing design, and we had the base drawing for our utilities, and it was just AutoCAD line work. We really weren't using anything design at that time. And when I was working on the water lines, I wanted the water lines to be big and bold and certain colors, and everything else faded back. But then when I was working on the sewer, I want the water faded back and I want the sewer to be big and bold. So you can save a layer state within a drawing to quickly bounce back and forth between them. And it just makes it quick and easy to go from, hey, I'm working on this thing to working on that thing. So that's one place where I might use a layer state. The other place that I find it really helpful is, hey, I've gotten these drawings from a consultant. I've got 12 drawings from this consultant. And so what I can do is I can go into their drawing and set up the layers the way I want them to be in this drawing. All right, so I'll just go ahead and create a new layer state here. We'll call this one Brian. All right. And so I've set this layer state. And then when I save this drawing, I can then go into a different drawing and I can import this layer state into that other drawing. And then it allows me to very quickly say, hey, I want the layers the way they are in this drawing to be the same as they are in that drawing. And so that's where I see Layer States Manager being used a lot.
And that obviously assumes that everybody is following the same layer naming conventions.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, very good point. So all the layers have to be named the same in all the drawings that you're importing from. Absolutely. Yeah.
So if you get those road users who like, create Bob layers, then you're just screwed.
Right. And if a layer isn't in the layer state, so I'm in this drawing and I've got a Bob layer, and that Bob layer is not in the drawing that or in the layer state that I'm importing in, there's an option down here to turn off that layer. So if the layer is not in the layer state, turn it off. I don't want to see it.
But that's the layer that everything's drawn on, like layer 0. Just joking. Sorry, I'm talking about some of my old nightmarish AutoCAD stuff from decades ago. So Simon had a follow-up question to this. He says, have you ever encountered exporting layer state as an LAS, and then when you import the LAS into another drawing, the layer colors turn to white? It's a weird issue he's having.
I haven't, but I don't export layer states anymore. I just save the layer state in the drawing, and then I save the drawing. And then when you go to import a layer state, you simply browse for a drawing. So I don't use layer state LAS files anymore. I just save them in a drawing, and then I go browse for that drawing. So I would try that, see if you get the same thing. If you do get the same thing, then next month you can ask it, and I'll say I don't know.
Or you can come back and say you resolved the issue, and then we'll make you the guest speaker.
Right.
And stand up, Brian.
So hopefully that answers that question, Sean. That's where does anybody else use layer states out of curiosity? Any unique ways of using layer states that I'm not thinking of?
Yeah, I do not use them, just to let you know in case you were curious.
Isfan uses them all the time. Yeah, Corey says that they do it for the converting the sub-consultant drawings. Yeah.
But again, if you're converting the sub-consultant drawings, are they using the same layer states? I mean, I know you're in Civil 3D, so it's more likely people are using similar layers.
No, well, I think it's more of, let me go into one of their drawings, change their layers to the way I want them to display.
Got it.
And then I can apply that to the other drawings.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not changing the names of the layers. It's just changing the properties of the layers the way they are.
Cool.
An alternative to that is the, what is it called? The layer translator. I don't even remember how to get to it. It's under, anyways, layer translator basically says, okay, I want to convert their layers to my layers. So it brings up it, and you can see both of them side by side, and you can say, okay, their layer that's called a roadway should match to my layer that is C-align or whatever it is. And then you can translate those. And then the next time you get a drawing from it, you can save that mapping and just load it back up and say, boom, map it. And assuming they've used all the same layer names in the new drawing, it'll convert them to your layers. So thank you, Lauren. Lay trans. Yeah, there we go. So here's the layers that I'm translating from. These are the layers that are in my drawing. And these are the layers that I want to translate to. So I'll go ahead and load up our template. So they have building canopies. Well, I don't want that to be on the layer building canopies. I want it to be on this layer instead. So I choose that and I choose that and I map it. And you can see it creates the mapping down here. And if you have layers that have the same name, you can just click on map same and it'll map all of those layers to make sure they're the same. And then you just go through and say, yeah, this I want to be that, map. This I want to be that, map. And then once you've got that mapping done, you save the mapping and you can use it on other drawings. So it comes in really handy if you're constantly having to change the properties of layers coming from the same source. So
Warren said another great tool is reference templates.
yeah, reference templates are good too. If you're trying to keep all of your drawings using the same styles. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. All right, any more questions there, Brian?
Yeah, Tom brought one up since we still have time. Have you used the reset layer settings in Sheets to reset layer settings to current layer state? It's a good way for using layer states for establishing layer properties in the sheet.
Have you used the reset layer settings in Sheets to reset layer settings to current layer state? I have no idea. So you said Sheets, so I'm assuming we're talking, let me bring in a sheet here. All right, so there's my sheets.
And Tom said create sheets with XREFs and then use layer manager.
Oh, that's what you're referring to. Right. Okay, I got you. Let me go ahead and create a new drawing here. I will XREF in the same drawing. Everything looks good. All right, so I've got this XREF in here, and if I go into my layers, I'm going to say, hey, all those layers that are being XREF'd in. All right, so I just did a filter for XREF. I'm going to change them all to be a nice gray. All right, so you can see they're all gray except for the corridor here. This must have a forced property on it, right? Let me change my XREF fading. Let me turn that off. Insert references, turn off the XREF fading. There we go. That should be easier to see now. All right, so basically I've got an XREF and it's got some override layer properties. So I want to reset some of the layers back to the way they are in the saved drawing, but I don't want it to change all of them. So if I wanted to change all of them, a couple of things I could do. I could just detach the XREF, reattach it, and it'll go back to the way the layers are in the saved drawing. I could also change that one system variable that nobody should say change, hence why I'm not going to say what the system variable is. And if anybody says it in the chat, I'm going to be very, very upset with you. So you don't want to do that. Instead, you can go into your layer properties manager, select the layers that you want to reset, right click on one of them, and then you can, let's see if I can find it. Reset XREF layer properties for the selected layers, and you can choose which properties you want to reset, or you can just do all properties. All right, so I'm going to do all properties, and now you can see just those ones no longer have the layer property override for those layers. It resets them back to the way they were in the XREF. So I think that's what you were referring to, Tom?
Yeah, no, sorry. I saw a yes pop up from Corey.
Okay.
That's
Nice.
what he said.
Yeah. So yeah, that one's really handy. And I honestly didn't know about this one either until recent. And I'm using recent is in like the last year or so, which is like 0.5% of my time using CAD. Something crazy like that. So yeah, I started using CAD in 1999, something like that. 1998, end of 98, or first part of 99. So yeah, I've been using it for a while.
They always think when you try to go back and remember when you started, it's like, wait, when did I start this software?
Yeah, it's like, okay, I graduated in 98. So I got my first job in 98, but I really wasn't using CAD that much that first year. So
Yeah, I'm always like, I started in DOS base, so when did
yeah, you started before I did.
I'm a few years older than you.
No, you're not.
A few.
I'm a few months older than you.
Oh, that's right. I thought it was a couple of years older than you, but anyway.
No, I joined the Army before I went to college, so
That's true. You did
my CAD career was delayed a little bit.
Yeah, I got through into it because I was doing CNC programming and I needed somebody to learn how to draw drawings so they could put them in CNC.
Right. All right. Do we have any other questions?
That was it.
That's it. All right. So if you have any questions, now is a great time to ask them because the queue is absolutely empty. Give you guys just a couple minutes to type in some questions. And if there are no questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this month. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. The only way we don't advertise this, we don't get paid to do this. It's just something we enjoy doing, sharing our knowledge with people. I like sharing my knowledge with folks because that's how I learned, was other people sharing their knowledge with me. So please share your knowledge. It's good for everybody. That's, rising water makes all the boats rise. So, yeah, Sean says there's a lot of folks using Carlson software. Does AutoCAD like Carlson software? I don't know why it wouldn't. I think Carlson also works on BricsCAD. So having Carlson work on AutoCAD means that they're more likely to sell more licenses of AutoCAD. So I guess that's good. But I think competition is good. So competitors to Civil 3D, you got Carlson, you've got the Bentley stuff. So Inroads, Geopack, MX Roads, and then the Power Civil, I think, is the new one. I don't know much about Power Civil. And so competition is good. It keeps Autodesk, it keeps them from becoming complacent. Okay, let me rephrase that. It keeps them from becoming more complacent than they are. Right. So I think competition is good. So I don't care if Autodesk likes it or not. If you want them to buy your software, make better software.
Yeah, and competition brings that about.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always talking to my powers that I know of in the Autodesk world and the Revit world of, did you see this cool new feature on this piece of software?
Yeah.
Man, it'd be worth using the software just for that tool.
Yeah. So Corey asked in the chat, am I going to AU? I am going to AU. I did not get chosen to have any classes this year. I think they've cut down on the number of classes this year. I don't think they're expecting near as many people, which I think is, I don't know. I'm speculating here. I can only imagine that's why they didn't choose me, because why else would they not choose me? Says the guy with the big ego. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'll be there. I will be co-speaker with Desiree. We're doing a class on how to choose which software to use for a project. So we do a lot of projects that could either be Civil or Revit. All right. And so what are some of the defining factors on which one to use? And so that's what our class is going to be on. Brian, which classes are you teaching this year?
I also did not get it.
Yeah, I know. Crazy, right?
I think they just have something against brands.
Right. It must be. Yeah.
It must be. And then Hugo did ask, can you spend a couple of seconds on the reference templates?
Yeah, sure thing. So let me go ahead and create a brand new blank drawing here. So this drawing is not going to have any Civil 3D stuff in it, right? So if I come over here to the settings tab and expand out, say, for example, surface style, you can see we just got this, the standard stuff. If you're working in Civil 3D and you see just the standard styles, you're not in the Civil 3D drawing, right? So let me, I haven't worked a whole lot with reference templates, but I know a bit about them. So if I come up here to the Manage tab, I can reference in a template. All right, so we'll just go ahead and add in, we'll just add in the GEI template. So this really should be more of a project-specific template. All right, let's go ahead and hit OK there. And now what you'll see is all my surface styles are from that template. So I'm still in this same drawing, But now you can see I've got all of the styles from that drawing now in this drawing. And they have this little, I guess, paperclip. It's referenced in, I don't know, right? So if I come in here and I try to edit one of these styles, I can do it. I'll turn that off. And then when I do this, it's going to ask, hey, you just changed a style that's a reference style. It's actually coming from that drawing over there. I'm not going to go change that drawing. So what do you want to do? So I can cancel, say, no, I messed up. I didn't want to make the change. I can apply the edits to this drawing session only. So when I go open up this drawing again, it's going to go back to the way it is in the reference template, or I can make a local copy. So this is going to be a style that is owned by this drawing and not in the reference template. Right. So I'll just make a local copy. And so you can see it now doesn't have the little paperclip in front of it. And if I'm using a style and I edit the reference template, then anywhere that style is referenced into other drawings, it gets changed. And so you can change the display of lots of different things in your project simply by changing the reference template. So for example, we've decided, hey, we want all of our spot elevation labels now to be out to 3 decimal places instead of 2 decimal places. And we've got 5,000 drawings with these labels, but they're using a reference template. So I go edit the reference template and it just populates through everything where it's referenced in. So that's reference templates in a nutshell.
If somebody overwrote that for this session only, that's not going to then update it to 3 decimals, is it? Since they overwrote it and said, I want to do that.
Right. Yeah. So this is just in this drawing. And if I do that in this session only, it's going to change it for the drawing. But when I close it, it's not going to save it to the style. So when I open it back up, it's going to revert back to the way it was in the reference template. Corey, I don't know if anybody's using reference templates. I think Warren does. He had to take off. I don't know. Does anybody here use reference templates? Put it up in the chat. Let us know. See, Todd, have you experienced any software defect issues using reference styles? I've had some drawings result with bad styles or objects with no styles assigned at all. I haven't seen any of that, Todd. And again, it's not something that I've used a whole lot, but I haven't heard of anything along those lines. So sorry about that.
All right, and that's the bottom of the hour.
All right. Well, great. Thanks everybody for showing up. And like I said, spread the word about Civil Chat. Let folks know. And we look forward to seeing you next month. And maybe that other guy will show up next month.
Maybe the other Brian, because you can never have too many Brians.
Right. I mean, it's just a Brian party.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care. Bye.